Hey everyone, welcome back to some more work here on RPG Craft, as I'm dubbing it, where I try to add different RPG elements to Minecraft through command blocks. This one's actually going to be a little bit different, so I've had a random thought, and I think I want to make turrets, or like tower defenses. Like a tower defense game, essentially the little things you set up to deal with all the mobs around you. I think that's going to be quite interesting, and for a change, I am essentially building the idea as we go. So usually I write it all down, figure out the commands I want to use, and go from there. I think this time we'll play around with a bit. I actually need an active space, so I think we'll build out this way a little bit, and just make a platform that I can experiment on. Right, I think this should do it. A little 11 by 11, which actually gave me an idea for another one. We'll probably get to. Just setting up a whole bunch of basic building commands for foundations. So just principles where you drop the item and it will build around your spot or the item location. I don't know, I'll play around that with it in the future. Anyway, what do I have here? I have a cauldron. So we used cauldrons previously, somewhere down there, to make a entry-level brewing system. Essentially a way to get potion effects without going to the nether. I think I'm going to turn them into torrents. So the basic concept is we're going to have a specialty block. This will define whatever the torrent is. So for instance, we might use a block of amethyst. On top of that, you're going to have a cauldron. And the reason I want to use cauldrons is because I can set up 4 different cauldron variants. So if you have a cauldron filled with snow, lava, or water, as well as a base cauldron, they're all tagged something different. So this is actually a powder snow cauldron, I think, is just the nomenclature. This is a lava cauldron and then a water cauldron, meaning that I can use command blocks to identify which cauldron is placed. And that way I can have a few different modes. So I think what we're going to go for is a basic one that's empty, and then we'll either do, I know water can be, it targets the closest entity, lava might be it targets the furthest entity, and then powder snow might be it targets every entity but at a severely reduced rate. And then of course to top it off, we need item frames. Item frames are my go-to thing, and I'm pretty sure this map is going to make glow squids so important. It's because everything I do use is a glow item frame. But yeah, so you can place a item frame on top of a cauldron. And this does look a bit odd. I'll leave it to you guys to snazz it up a bit. Obviously I could retexture everything, retexture the cauldron slightly to make it blend a bit better. Even the amethyst, just add like, I don't know, a little square here. But for the main state, this is going to be our little torrent. And all it's going to do is whatever effect we come up with, whether it's applying instant damage, shooting arrows maybe, fireballs. What block am I looking for? Redstone. That's what I'm trying to think. Well, anything red. Because essentially all we're going to do is using a radius system. What's that? It's 4 blocks. 4 blocks. And the way the torrent will function is it will hit any entity within this little radius. I'm pretty sure they work diagonal and not as squares. I might be wrong about that. And it might be, obviously, this size, but I'm pretty sure it's a radius in terms of the commands they use. So yeah, so... Ooh, that was awful. What do you need? You need that, I guess? This side is definitely messed up. Because it's missing one, that's why. Okay, that's better. So yeah, so you have your torrent in the middle, and then whatever effect you're running. So for instance, if we do like a torrent that shoots arrows, we'll have an arrow. The position of it, because what I would like to do is have it set so you can target it. So for instance, this is going to aim at this direction. So the field it might search in would be a radius starting from this point, for instance, and then it will only hit things in a square that's lined up with the actual item. But thinking about it, stuff like the arrow is going to be a bit different to the bucket. Because for instance, if the bucket's facing that direction... Ooh, wrong one. the arrow is facing that direction, which could be confusing. Yeah, so I'm not sure how I want to handle rotation just yet. Or, well, I just avoid items that have a directional sprite, which wouldn't be too hard. You could stick to, like, diamonds, eggs, anything where the point is near the top. Yeah, so that's the general principle we're going to be working off, is you build your tower, you select your variant by filling the cauldron, and then you have an item frame. No, I have got that backwards thinking on the fly. So this bottom block is what's going to determine the tower type. The item frame I think we'll use as ammunition. Yeah, I think that's a better way of doing it. Because that way we can clear the item at X intervals, so you have to restart your towers. That way they're not just permanent fixtures, because that'd be a bit too OP. I think that'll be good. I think I'm going to start on the command block then. Shouldn't be too hard. I have a rough idea of what I want to do. I just have to figure out somewhere to build it though. I think I'm done going lower, and we're going to go up. Yeah. I'm going to figure out where I'm putting it. Then we'll get building. Right, so it looks like we'll be building it right next to our current stuff. It's not too bad. I can have a little staircase going up here, because the tower will stick out that far. So it does leave a couple blocks. 9 by 9 should hopefully be big enough. I should probably just stick with the usual pattern I keep. But we also have a lot of leeway this side, so we can go an extra 3 blocks. So if you're wondering why I'm building within a set space, is essentially I have this initial platform chunk loaded, and it's 4 chunks. So as long as I build all the constructs within this little square, they'll always be loaded, and therefore they'll always affect the game. Even like in the nether or the end, which is really good. So we have a lot of stuff that's obviously constant, being RPG elements. So I think we will end up building the command blocks along this side. So like I said, I have a bit of position to go down, up, and outwards. So we need basic ones at the very, well, no. Okay, so we'll need a timer system to trigger the effects. So they'll probably be done with repeating commands. We have 4 variants, so we need 4 chains, and they all need to be pointing upwards. And this is my general system for making redstone timers, because all I do is I fill in blocks. So for instance, if I can grab out the right block, all these 2 are going to do is fill in a tower of redstone and delete it. That's way it's instant pulse, and then I have timers set up underneath. We just go off of, I think it's 3 seconds, 12 seconds, 30 seconds. So for the most part, the normal, the lava, and the water will be the same. Actually, I might make normal 12 seconds. The 2 lava and water can be 3, and then the powdered snow can be slower but target everything within the environment. So yeah, so the initial command is just to copy over my timers, because I don't want to think about it. Where is an applicable one? Okay. So yeah, so this is the timer system. Just executing if the scoreboard of the nearest player, and then these are all the timers I set up, matches X interval, is going to fill. That's all we need to copy over. I do have to work out my tick schedule. Essentially, the game operates in 20 ticks a second, if you've ever realized that, because my lowest timer is 3 seconds. I have everything set up ranging between 1 and 60, and that way there's not too many command blocks running at the same time. So I will have to look at my spreadsheet and figure it out. But essentially, this bottom one's just going to fill in a column above the command block. So it's 2 up, I think, right? 1, 2, yep. So from 2 up to, I don't know, make it somewhat small. We'll go to 8 at the moment. It's going to fill just redstone blocks, always active, unconditional, and it should tick over. There we go. And then this one is going to do exactly the same, except it's now going to fill only, I think it's 1 to 7. Did I do my math right? Should be. And this one's just going to be air and replace, and I've got one thing. This one. Yeah, there we go. Replace. Does need to be conditional. If we delete one, it shouldn't. It should just, yeah, disappear. Did I make these conditional? I did. Okay, so the chain is conditional. And all this means is every 3 seconds, we have a little pulse going. So if I were to grab out a normal command block, and we just put it above here, because there's redstone generating here, and we just say, say hi. Should pulse. And this is the backbone for our systems. So I'm going to set them all up, and then we'll work on the actual cauldron commands. So I decided to move it out 1 block, so instead of generating the redstone above these 2 command blocks, it's generating them in this little column. That way I have a bit more space to work with. I can build down if I want, or up, rather than just up, obviously on top. And I can also, if need be, I could extend it this way if I wanted to remove the command block. But other than that, the actual command is going to be fairly simple. I'm going to put it in chat, and it might look a bit confusing, but there's a lot of jargon that is just here because it's needed, and you don't really need to learn it or understand it because it's the same across every aspect. So anytime you're looking for an item with NBT, it's the same principle. The only thing you have to worry about is these little spots I have not filled in just yet. So for instance, inside the item frame, we've got NBT equals Minecraft ... And this is where you just put in whatever item is going to be the requirement for the top position. And then underneath it, we've got, it's looking for a cauldron that's 2 blocks under. And then it's looking for, ooh, why have I done like that? Then it's looking for a different block 1 under. I have them reversed. Is that because I wanted to? Alright. I guess that does look a bit better. Still kind of looks goofy. Cauldron is the base. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. We don't have to worry about that one. It doesn't really matter. So all we're doing is looking for if. So if there's a block underneath, 2 blocks down, and 1 block down, you can play around with these however you want. It's fairly simple. And again, here we just have to input the actual block we're looking for. And then off of this command is how we run all our other commands. And that's going to be another simple principle where we just use the run. In this case, we're going to execute again. And we're going to do act. So we're using a double set of executes. So one is to find the cauldron. And then the second one will be to find the closest entity to said cauldron. I've filled in everything we need. So it's this bottom one. So I've changed the glow item frame because that's what we're using. We're just using an arrow, amethyst block for the block in the middle, I guess. And here we've got the execute at. So we're looking for entities within a distance of 10 blocks. So these little dots are a range. If you put the number beforehand, it means you're looking for an entity, say 1 ... would be 1 block away or further. In this case, it's at the torrent that we're setting up to a maximum of 10 blocks. And again, because this is the basic one, the normal cauldron, we're using sort random to randomly pick an entity. So we can go ahead and change this timer as well from a 3-second timer into, what do we settle on? We settle on 12 seconds for the normal one. So every 12 seconds it's going to operate. So every 12 seconds this cauldron is, that we set up, because I did delete it because we need to reverse it, is going to run something. So what shall we have it run? How about we just summon a zombie, something nice and easy. It's just going to summon a zombie at the at the player's location. So if we set it up, I need an arrow. I don't need the pulse node at the moment. So the way it was set in that is that. Okay. Should, hopefully, if I've set everything up right, detect this, and then detect that we're within a circle, and there you go, summon a zombie. So every 12 seconds, it's going to summon a zombie at an entity's location. In this case, One was summoned at the item frame, because the item frame is an entity, and one was summoned at our location. And it's multiplying because I did not set a limit, which is the next big thing to talk about. And they're just going to continue to multiply. I need to actually destroy Cauldron. Okay, so the limits are going to be very important. So if we go back into this little one that says execute at an entity, so it's executing at every entity that fits this requirement. We don't want that. We want it to limit it to, say, one entity. So now every 12 seconds, it's only going to execute once at any entity, and we also need to start putting in our negative parameters. So if you use the type selector along with an exclamation mark, this is going to blacklist any entities. So for instance, if we did the player, it will no longer use the player to detect. So if we set it up for Kloo item frame as well, type exclamation mark, there we go. So it should no longer essentially summon any zombies. Oh, they're all gone. Yep, so it won't summon any zombies here at all within those 12 seconds. You are outside, so that's fine. Although I did make it 10, didn't I? For science. Anyway, so it shouldn't summon anything. If we dropped, say, an arrow onto the ground, because the dropped item is an entity, it should, hopefully, if I could count, surely, 1, 2, oh, there we go. So yeah, so it summons an entity at the arrow location. If I jump a whole bunch of items, we can test the limit now. There's 4 items on the ground, but only 1 zombie should spawn. And there is only 1. So everything's working correctly, and now we have the basis for the whole system. Because all we have to do is... Oh, I should also just... so that I keep spawning. So all we have to do is copy this over, and obviously swap out whatever we're running. So this can be changed to an effect, so it gives every entity within the area, say, slowing. Or we could do summon... instead of zombies, we could do arrows, effect clouds... I think there's fireballs. There's a lot of stuff we can play around with, and obviously I'm going to get to work setting them all up, and then we'll take a look at them and hopefully play around for a bit. I think I've settled on a better design. What do you guys think? So I've swapped to an observer because it's the only block with a face. So the structure's 1 higher, which I guess is more like an actual tower. Nether Star on top, I think, is a good bracket or way to gate being able to build all the torrents. And then, yeah, these little walls kind of makes it look like a blaze almost. And then it's pretty easy to replace the block out because you can still see it. I don't know. I think this is what we might go with. And then you just obviously transition out whatever the middle block is to change the torrents. The other big thing is I talked about working out positional effects depending on what way the item frame is rotated. It's very possible, very easy. You just have to edit the NBT data, so where we have the little, it's easier in chat, where we have the little name tag. Oh, it's not actually on this one. Sorry, we're here, where we have the item tag, not name. You just have to obviously add in, it's like POS or something. I'd have to look up on the wiki. But if we did do that, we'd need 8 command blocks per tower, because there's obviously 8 different rotations you can have the item in. So this would be the height if I were to build 3 towers. So 8, 16, 24. So I think I'm just going to stick to 1 rotation, so the rotation doesn't really matter. And that way we only need 4 per tower, and I can make a bunch of different towers. Just realized I've been at this longer than I thought. So probably only got a bit of time to show off 1, and then I'll work on the rest between this and the next one. So this column is all the blocks I think I want to work with and turn into towers that I can come up with a generally decent idea for. As you can see, the pointed dripstone block is, of course, just summoning pointed dripstone. So every 12 seconds, because we're just on the normal cauldron, it's going to summon a pointed dripstone block. I think it's 10 blocks above, so this will only work outdoors. It also doesn't do whole lot of damage, as you can see. It's hardly taking anything. In fact, they can miss too. So it's definitely like an entry-level tower. And then all the way up, I think, is this Sea Lantern? Yes, Sea Lantern. Will probably be Tritons, so there'll be a better variant to this pointed dripstone. I can come up with something with like the bell to summon weaker iron golems, maybe. There's lots of stuff I can do. But we'll just quickly go over the command since it is... It's alright. I copied it onto Word. It's fine. Saved, luckily. Okay, so here's the finished command. There's one part of it that I was a bit worried about. From here, if you can make out that difference. So it's exactly the same as what we were previously working with. The only difference now is the polished deep slate walls, which I added. So that's just 4 of them around the central block, or our definition block, which is a dripstone block. I said block way too many times. Okay, and then here's the meat of it. So it's going to execute at an entity with blacklisted players, items, item frames, glow item frames, villages. I've got armor stands, so that's one to figure out. Well, maybe you could do something with armor stands to control where it goes. These were just things that either it's a waste hitting an item, or you don't want it because it is like a defense tower, so you don't want hitting a player. I mean, it would be a good way if I could differentiate between the owner and other players, but you can't really do that in vanilla. And then here's the actual command bit. So it's summoning a falling block, 10 above whatever entity it picks. The block state determines what block it is. So in this case, tip merge is what dripstone is. So kind of interesting that there's no big determinant for dripstone. Like the way they've phrased each segment is a bit weird. The fact that they're each individual rather than, for instance, so there's like tip merge, base merged, and each of them are just a single segment rather than being able to change the size of the dripstone. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. And then motion, it's just one block negative in the Y direction, so this is the same as like coordinates, so X, Y, Z. Z's not there. I don't think you need X. I think you need X to differentiate. Because obviously if this is in the first position, it's going to think it's X, and I don't think you can leave a break. And then here's the big thing that I really had to find online, because it's not on the wiki, and I didn't have a good way to sort of find the NBT data of the dripstone block. This hurt entities. So unless you state this when summoning dripstone, it's not going to deal damage. We'll probably, we'll swap over and try out the other cauldrons too. So we'll go ahead, remove this, and if we swap it over to water or lava, it will also be quicker. So instead of every 12 seconds, it should be every 3 seconds. Back to back. Yep. And then water should also be picking the closest. Or did I do that backwards? If I put you on the outskirts, who's going to get hit? No, so water's targeting the furthest. And if we were to, say, swap it to lava, it would go back to targeting the closest. And of course, powdered snow is going to be slow as, but at least it's going to hit both of them. Don't hide from me. So every 30 seconds. There we go. So if you had a whole mass. Granted, yeah, this might get a bit extreme. I might have to cap it so it doesn't cause too much lag. I mean, it's summoning how many entities at this point? Say 15-ish? Come on. There we go. So it wasn't too bad. Obviously, it's going to be very slow, but will be useful with some of the other effects we end up building. But anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.